Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the From Ordinary to Extraordinary podcast. And today we have an extremely special guest today. And looking at her bio, she has such a huge resume. And it would take me literally 5 minutes just to read everything. So I'm just going to give you some highlights of just who we have the honor of speaking with today. Her name is Saiyyidah Zaidi, and she's a positive psychologist and expert growth coach. She's an international speaker and is known for her training and seminars on entrepreneurship, work-faith balance, positive psychology, high performance, and abundance. She's the first winner of Niche Hero, an international business competition, and has been personally mentored by Sheikh Mohammed Al-Sharif, and has personal mentors include Tony Robbins, Brendan Burchard, and Sheikh Mohammed Akram Nadwi. She's the only positive psychologist and certified business coach. She's the world's only positive psychologist and certified business coach, and one of 150 certified high performance coaches globally. And her most recently, she's founded Millionaire Muslimah, which is a movement to create and grow 10,000 Muslimah businesses. So again, I'm only reading just a few of her accomplishments. And I can say this is an extreme honor to have you online with us today. Welcome, Saiyyidah. How are you doing?
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, I'm doing
Walaikum
really,
salam.
really well. It's an honor for me to be here.
I almost don't know where to begin. So the easiest thing for me to do here is to start at the beginning. How did this whole entire journey get started? You don't seem like you have enough years on your life to have accomplished all of this.
Alhamdulillah. Well, I have to say, I got my first job when I was 11, so maybe I started really young.
Oh,
But
okay.
no,
And what
do you
was
know?
that job?
I was working in a play scheme. So, like you have these summer schools where the kids go. I was an assistant there. And it actually taught me a lot about leadership and about diversity because we had kids from all over the world there, but also kids with varying abilities as well. So there were some severely disabled children all the way to fully able-bodied. And had I not had that job, I wonder if I would have ever interacted with such a variety of people. So I did learn a lot about myself, mashallah.
Oh, wow. SubhanAllah.
Mm.
That's excellent. And so, what catapulted you into the world of entrepreneurship?
So my when I was growing up, I think the kind of traditional idea of a career that I had was, you go to university, you graduate, you get a job, and then you just go through the ranks and eventually you retire. And that's what would have happened for me. And I was doing quite well because I made it to director in local government and I did it quite fast, which was pretty miraculous in itself. But I think I did it through working hard and making good connections and getting right support and knowing where my gaps were. But how did I then take the leap from what you would say was a traditional 9 to 5 career into working for myself? And I think it was pretty much because I was just unhappy. I realized that even though I was doing the job of my dreams, inverted commas, I wasn't spending time with my family. My decision making ability was being determined by people who were around me. And I
Mm.
no longer loved what I was doing. And I had enough and I just wanted to get out. And so I thought, okay, leave, start to, because had already been coaching people, and so I thought, okay, let me just get out of there and try and find a way for how I can make sense of the skills that I have and see what I can do, and that's how I've ended up doing what I'm doing now.
Wow. Wow. So, that was a pretty high level position that you had.
Yeah. Even now, I can hear my mum in my ears saying to me, "Why did you leave your job?" Because when you work in the government position, you get a nice pension, you have the health care, you have
Uh,
everything taken care of. And it was just like I said, I had enough. And I know it had a very significant impact on my family because all of a sudden, we went from six figures plus a year to very, very little. But I think it was the right thing to do because it's more important for us to be happy and whole than for us to be slaves working for something that we don't believe in.
Absolutely. I totally agree. The the courage it takes to leave that kind of an income. And it says something, it says a whole lot about the individual as a person. And you've it's just been a blessing to everyone that has been able to be mentored by you, that you actually took that leap and decided this is enough. So,
Yeah. And I mean it's a blessing for me that I had the support of my husband, who I remember having a conversation with him, and he just said, "Do what makes you happy, and we will deal with the consequences." And had he not said that, I would probably still be working in that job now because of the security that it gave. And so I think it's really important for us to make sure that we surround ourselves with people who love us not just on a superficial level, but love us so much that they want our happiness for us.
yes, yes, yeah,
Mm.
that's extremely important, especially in this journey, because it's not and it's not an easy journey. So, so when you made this decision to quit that job, and then what? Where did you find yourself other than jobless?
So I found myself unemployed and in bed for 6 months. And I'll tell you why. Because I felt like a maverick actually leaving my job, and it was the best thing I ever did. But then for the next 6 months, all I could hear was my mum saying to me, "Why did you do it? When are you going to get a proper job?" And all of that thing. And it was really hard. So I would describe it as if I actually went into mild depression because I didn't know what I was going to do next. And it was really hard picking myself up from that because, I still had clients I had to coach and I still had people that I was working with. So in some ways, it was like I was living two lives because I was having to deal with so much of my own stuff, yet support these other people. And I felt lost. And I'm not sure what turned it around, but I have to say, I was asking God for a lot of help.
Yeah.
And something must have happened because 6 months or so after that, I just realized I couldn't carry on living my life like that because if I did, I was just going to go back to what I was feeling when I was working for the government. Then at least I had decent money coming in. This time do you know what I mean?
If you're gonna suffer, at least suffer with money, huh?
Exactly. So that's when I kind of thought, okay, pull yourself together, Sayyida. You've got to sort this out. You need to get on with working out what you need to do. And that was really when I realized I had to set up my own business. I had to learn all this stuff about, what a blog is, what is social media. I didn't even have a Facebook page. I didn't even know how to spell the word blog, let alone how to write one. And so it was like I was going back to school, and I struggled through all of that. But because I've done that, alhamdulillah, and thank God I'm now in a position where, I can take care of my kids and I know what they're doing on a daily basis. We can live wherever we want to and travel where we want. And it's fantastic. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, travel quite a bit. I like traveling too, and you're in beautiful Scotland right now. So,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. You also brought up taking care of your kids and being able to be there, especially for women who feel like, they're always in this tug of war between taking care of their children and having a career, and which is in one way taking care of themselves. And I find that a lot of women feel that they lose themselves when they stay home. Not that they're not contributing, they just feel like, especially leaving home, I mean, leaving a job and staying home, which I think is a fantabulous decision.
Mm.
Um, but a lot of women are in that position where they're feeling like, well, how I've decided, I made this conscious decision to stay home. or to quit my job, but then they find themselves in that space where, oh my gosh, now I'm a permanent caretaker, but I feel like, I mean, it's completely rewarding. And then at the same time, there's still some sense of wanting to contribute in other areas.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what's interesting for me, because I took time off when my kids were babies and then I went back to work. And it was only because I've been through that experience that I relate to what you're saying, because I feel that I need to work. I need to use my intellect.
Yeah,
And if I'm not doing that, then I'm not whole and I'm not happy. And I love my children at the same time. So where do we find the balance for all of
yeah,
that? Because you want to there's no point in having kids if you're not going to look after them properly and raise them right.
exactly.
But at the same time, you've got to look after yourself. And it's very, very, or it can be quite challenging to strike that balance between your needs and your children's needs. And I think that, we have this wonderful gift of the internet and computers. And I think it's actually enabled us to be in a position where we can work very effectively from home. You've got to find the right balance,
Yeah.
but you can do it. And I think that we live in times that are quite complicated, but also there's a lot of liberation that's available should you seek it.
Yes, yes. It's been amazing for me. Not that I have children to worry about, but I come in contact with a lot of women and I hear the same story in different ways. But one put it to me, she said, you lose yourself.
Yeah,
And and that was scary for her because she was thinking, even though her children were small, they're going to grow up, they're going to have their own lives one day, and then what's going to happen to all of the education and the intellect that I have, and how do I create a life outside of my children when I've been doing this for so long? And that scared, I think, even more women that will actually talk about it openly. But it's definitely something that the internet has made extremely possible to fulfill both.
mm.
And you've been helping women do just that, pretty much.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, I
Alhamdulillah.
suppose now that I've done this and I've been through the 5+ years of struggle, of ups and downs, days when there's no hair left to tear out, right? And but the thing is that once you've been through that journey, you have an idea of how to streamline it and make it easy. And so what I
Yeah.
do when I work one to one with people is just that. I'm helping them to start and to grow their businesses, because I really do believe that if you have a skill set, then it's important for you to share it with others so that they can then develop as well. If
Yeah.
you keep it to yourself, then, it's like a muscle that you're not exercising. And that's the bit for you. But when you make other people realize their potential as well, then it's like creating ripples. And, if I can just shake the earth a little bit and, help to support some amazing women become financially independent, become kind of free mentally as well as physically, then that would be pretty awesome.
It's an amazing, we're going to get into that a little bit later, what you have cooking up for that, which is an amazing program that I'm
Mm.
so excited about.
Mhm.
And it's just oozing. You can't even see it right now, but I'm just oozing with excitement because when I saw you post about it, I almost jumped out of my chair. And, I contacted, I mean, Monica saw it. She probably saw it before I did because she's just on Facebook more. But oh, wow, we were just so excited talking about it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that later because I want to kind of end with that. But okay, so in this whole process, what would you say would probably be your biggest mistake that you said you made?
Biggest mistake would be not believing in myself.
Hmm.
So when I look back to that 6 months after I left my job, that only happened because I didn't believe in myself. And it can be anyone who says just a few words to you and they mean it, or they say those words because with the best of intention and because they're caring for you. But sometimes what happens is that you process those and that's all you hold on to, and it destroys your confidence
Mm.
and your ability, and it means you just do absolutely nothing. And I look back to that time and I feel as if I wasted 6 months of my life, and it's not something that I ever want to do again. So anybody listening in, if you want to do something, you just got to believe in it, and you've just got to get on with it and not allow anyone's negativity or bad words or whatever it is to get in the way of you believing that you can deliver and you can do what you want.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's extremely important. Like I said, it's 80% mental.
Yeah, I mean, often I think, and even in the work that I do with my coaching clients, the work that my coaches do with me, it's all about us standing in our own way.
Yeah.
And as soon as we learn to step out of that and actually step into the one that is our best possible selves,
Mm. Yes.
then, the world will come to your assistance. And I think we forget that.
Yeah. Or don't know it.
Yeah.
Don't know it because, it's, how long it's even taken me, if all of the things I've done, it's taken me even a long time to come into some of these realizations myself.
Mm,
And it's amazing when you realize it and experience it. And what I realize is that we're not really, unless you were born in a household that did this very effectively, we're not traditionally raised or taught to really trust ourselves. We're taught to be like someone else, or we're successful if we're in this particular category, or we're doing this, even from learning, and that could go on forever. But we're
mm.
just constantly being fed that we need to be something else, indoctrinated that way to where that's the only way we know to think.
Mm. And it's
It's really,
really interesting because I think that, with the traditional education systems, with the way that the media is, with all of this stuff going on, it is indoctrination, and people are being created out of the system that will just go and plug themselves into businesses earning minimum wage and not really having the best life that they could. Yet as soon as you step out of the system and you try and do something different, you can actually, it becomes very transparent what's going on.
yes.
And I find it fascinating. There's people all over the world, and in terms of their wealth situation, they vary from being living off minimum wage all the way to multimillionaires. And there's a lot of people who are opting out of the system because they've realised they don't want for their kids and the future generations what they had for them growing up.
Yes.
So I think the world is going to be a very different place in the next few decades.
Yes. Hopefully for the better.
Inshallah, yeah, I hope so.
Inshallah. And that's why we're here, to be a part of that change. So, inshallah.
Absolutely.
Um, so what's your view on the big F word, failure?
I think that there's a lot that we can learn from failure, and I think you've got to make it your friend.
Hmm.
When I started out that first blog, and remember, I didn't even know what a blog was. I had to have so much help, even just to set up a Facebook account. And would you call it a failure? Nobody liked my first blog post. I had to hunt down people who would be interested in what I was doing, and it was a real struggle. And that taught me that you've got to, this thing about determination and
Hmm.
just keeping on going. But through all of the mistakes that I've made, I've had launches where, I've gone into it and thought, oh, this is a fantastic idea, and literally delivered something very, very quickly, and it's been amazing, but then sold like 5 or 10, and it's a failure. But the learning that you get through that failure is phenomenal.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's the application of that. So for me personally, I want to keep failing because then I keep growing. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a master at failing. But again, like you said, that's what allows you to keep growing. You just, in some cases, you can't learn it
Yeah,
other ways. It's like this is the pathway. You have to jump over this hurdle, and
yeah.
you can't get to the other side unless you go through that hurdle, and then you can look back and say, okay, now I see why.
But there's also something really interesting that happened to me recently because I've been doing a lot of traveling and I'm trying to learn Arabic. I actually failed one of my levels, like I failed the exam because my attendance marks weren't enough. And so that put me with a different class. And so I had new people in the class. And what was interesting for me through that experience was that second time round, I was seeing things and learning stuff that I missed first time round. So my depth of understanding was far greater. But
Yeah.
also, it's the opportunities that were created through linking with different people. And so for me, I think that failing that exam, and so failing in a traditional sense, actually opened up so many more opportunities for me. And it really struck me and it made me kind of reflect on other things that I've, failed at in the past and how, had I not done all of that, maybe I wouldn't be where I am now.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree. Or sometimes that failure it is a blessing. It
Yeah.
definitely is a blessing because it's part of the process of you getting to that level of greatness that's there. Or
Yeah, I
else,
mean, I'll tell you another story as well, if I may, which was a few years ago, we got burgled and they took the laptop, they took my backup, and they took the backup of my backup,
oh
right?
my
So
goodness.
I know, I was really, really annoyed.
Annoyed, just annoyed.
I was going to say a swear word, but thank God I didn't, right? I was not in a good mood. And so I thought, okay, what do I have to learn? And, I had my period of having a few days of being angry. And then I thought, okay, I'm not going to allow this to eat me up. I need to work out what I need to learn from this. And the biggest message for me was that maybe it was God saying to me that that 6 months worth of work that I'd lost, it just wasn't good enough.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I thought, okay, fine,
Hmm.
you've got to start again. So blank piece of paper, new laptop, and I just did everything again. And it killed me, but I'm so glad I did it because what I did the next time round was so much better than what I had before.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. I don't know if I would have even come up with that. But that's what happens. I try to, whenever something goes wrong, I say, okay, what's the lesson? What's the lesson? Because if you don't get it, you stay in it
Yeah,
until you do. So I'm like, okay, I need to really focus on and you have to really set aside the failure aspect to really see the blessing in it. You
absolutely.
have to set it aside and say, okay, I prayed for this to happen. It didn't happen. What's the lesson in it? And what can I take away from it? And some of them, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that
Mm.
it didn't happen the way I asked for it because it would have taken me off in a totally different path that I would have been doing and I wouldn't have been happy with. And even if it was successful. So I definitely welcome those. And we can only see so much ourselves. So
Mm.
it's awesome. So
Mm.
now looking, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Or even if you know this answer, what do you think is your biggest accomplishment?
Oh, it is a really, really hard one. And I hope that I haven't done it yet. And the reason I say that is because, when I first got married, and even before I got married, I had this conversation with my husband to be in about kids and all of that. And I was very indifferent to having children, I'll be honest with you. And then, because alhamdulillah, I did very, very well at my education and my career was going really well. And then my daughter came along and I was like, oh my God, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I
Wow.
hope that in decades to come, I will look back and I will think that that is the best thing that I have done in my life because, there is no point in us having this skill set and learning it if we don't nourish and create our children to be the leaders that their generation needs. So, from the work that I'm doing, I've come to this late, and I feel as if I'm constantly catching up. But if I can give them the skills that they need, then and they can influence their generation to be better, then for me, that I hope would be the biggest legacy that I could leave.
Yes, yes, totally agree.
Mm.
So, advices would you have for young entrepreneurs, any entrepreneurs, but especially those starting out?
Come up with an idea, not 100 ideas, just one. Because I know that, if you're anything like me, I can come up with ideas for businesses and blogs and all of this. I could come up with a million a day, but there just isn't enough time. And what happens is that when you have too many ideas, you lose focus and you end up doing absolutely nothing. You just need
Yes.
one idea. Be prepared to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes, because the learning that you do is priceless. And just believe that you can do it. These days, because we have the internet and social media and all of these other things, you don't even need a huge amount of money to invest in your business. You can start with zero.
Yes.
There's tools that are available that will help you build a mailing list of up to 2,000 without a penny being spent. I didn't have that when I started out.
Yeah.
You start a WordPress blog for free. So
Yeah.
there's no excuse anymore not to work for yourself and to have your own business. You just gotta want to do it and carve out a little bit of time every single day so that you can do something towards that.
Absolutely. Yes. Now you can do this with no money. When I started, and I started with an e-commerce site, which I still have, but that's another story. But, there was some investment, not a huge investment, but some of the platforms and things that are available now just were not available. And the things that were really expensive, we had to bootstrap it for such a long time just to get little things because it wasn't as developed as it is now. And no WordPress and blogs and things no social media. There was just setting up an online store pretty much was your way to go with a business.
Mm.
And you had to pay the monthly fees, then you had to advertise, and you had to get training. And so now it's really, I like that you put it that way, that there's just no excuse if you really, really want to do it. And there's plenty of information out there to get it done. So, did you have any particular book recommendations or?
So I really like 10,000 Hours. Can you hear
Oh,
me? Yep. 10,000 Hours by Malcolm Gladwell. I love that book. I just think it taught me so much about understanding that whole process of growth. That's one. I think the other book that I would really recommend is a book called How of Happiness. And that shows you, or it takes you through positive psychology interventions that you can do. And I know we've not spoken much about positive psychology in this discussion, but I think that there's a lot to be said about you taking control of your psychological well-being, and that book has enormous amount in there for different things that you can try, and there will be something in there that will fit for you. For example, I know that one thing that seems to be at the front of a lot of people's mind is issues with forgiveness. There'll be someone in your family or in your circle that you're struggling to forgive. Well, this book and the intervention that's in there really, really helped me to work that stuff out. So
and
that certainly is, yeah.
that's called How Happiness or
How of Happiness.
How of Happiness.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are two I hadn't heard. And since you brought it up and you said it exactly as I was thinking, let's define what positive psychology is,
Yeah.
just in case there's some kind of confusion around it.
So positive psychology is the science of happiness. And it basically takes, it's interesting because if we look at normal psychology, inverted commas, it was to do with taking people who are feeling anxiety or depressed or have some sort of, they call it, psychological illness, to a place where they feel normal, inverted commas. Well, positive psychology looks at the average person and takes them to a place where they can go and thrive and flourish. And that's what really, really struck me about this, because what we're doing is we're saying, yes, there's a whole load of psychology and interventions that are available for people who need to move from one place to the other, to where they can be living a ordinary, normal life, whatever that may be for that person. But how do we then shift them forwards to propel them so that they really are living into their excellence? And for me, positive psychology has so many tools and interventions that are there that help people to do that.
Excellent. Yeah, and that just leads right into the well, not only for our discussion personally, into the entrepreneurship and just really stepping out there and being confident and doing something that you're going to love and be happy doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're the only one I never heard the term positive psychologist until I met you.
It's interesting because and I'll tell you how I got into positive psychology, because I did some coaching training, and it was I didn't realize at the time how elite it was, but it gave me some really, really good connections. And so I asked one of my trainers, and I said, what should I do next? And because a lot of my clients were saying to me, they didn't understand the reason why some of the interventions and some of the work that we were doing was working. So they said, why don't you go and do a master's? So I found this master's in positive psychology, and there were only 2 places in the world that did it at the time.
Wow.
One was in Pennsylvania, and one was a 10-minute bus ride from my house. And I was thinking, okay,
you know what? God has just...
Exactly. It's been thrown in my plate. I have to do this.
Wow.
So, and it was one of the best things I did, because it was, not only did it really help me to grow, but it also helped me to deal with, we all have stuff that we need to get over. And it did help me with that. And it helped me realize that just having an ordinary life is not enough for me. I feel as if I've been created to do more than just live and raise my kids and, work 9 to 5 or whatever. I have to do more.
Yes, you have done quite a bit. So let's talk about this new project you're launching.
Yeah, Millionaire Muslimah.
Yes.
So it's funny because it's an idea that I've had in my mind for some time. And it was a conversation that I had with my mum that just made me think, okay, now is the time for me to get off my butt and do something about it. And the aim really is to take the work that I've been doing with people on one-to-one and actually put it in a way so that it's more accessible to people, and actually help primarily Muslimas kind of grow and create businesses for themselves, so that they are psychologically whole, so they have financial freedom, so that they can live wherever they want to, and so that they are in charge of the decisions that they make for their life, rather than stressing about how are we going to get food on the table, how are the bills going to pay, because that is not the way that life should be. I think there's so much more that we can have, and we shouldn't be worrying about some of the basics.
Yes. And so what made this, what gave you this inspiration for this project?
It was the frustration of women having to compromise. As we were speaking about before, no one should really have to decide whether they go to work or raise their children. No one should have to decide whether they use their intellect doing something that they enjoy or not. We shouldn't become slaves to the 9 to 5 working in a job that we don't enjoy. There's got to be more to this. And I think that as women are getting more and more educated and becoming more aware of who they are. There's also this thing about us, not having to ask anyone for money. And I think that is religion less, and also it's
Yeah.
timeless. You know, I do not want to ever have to ask my husband for money to buy something that I want. If I like a nice handbag, I should be able to just go to the shop and buy one without thinking of the consequences. And I know I'm being flippant when I say it, but really, that's something that I would desire for myself and I would desire for everybody. We shouldn't be standing in a supermarket looking at two loaves of bread and thinking, do I go for the cheaper one or the healthier one, because
Yeah.
we haven't got the money to. And these are the choices that some people are having to make. And so,
Yeah.
what I'm working to do really is to help women to be able to create their own businesses and grow their own businesses so that they're no longer in that situation.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. It's definitely something that so many women are dealing with and not knowing how to get started and where to get started, and but they have that desire just to, even if it's just, and you're speaking in pounds and I'm going to speak in dollars, but even if they had an extra 500 or extra $1,000 in their pocket, that would just,
It would transform the world for them,
for
because,
them, a
yeah,
lot of people think that they have to make so much money, and some just want to make enough. I know even when I started, my goal was to not have to get rid of my commute
yeah.
and to not have to do that commute and to replace my income working from home. Of course, that was goal number one. And then once you get there, you could always take it further, but you don't necessarily have to if that is okay with you. There are some women who are going to be just fine with that and happy, and then others who are just want to say, you know what, if I can do this, I can do more. And that freedom.
Absolutely. And I think
Yeah.
what's interesting for me is that it releases some of the stress and the tension, and I
Yeah.
think you're right. An extra $500 to $1,000 a month will it will create freedom for people to go on holiday, to take time off and not worry, and maybe have a little bit of luxury in their life as well. Things that I think the majority of people probably had before, their life circumstances changed.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I was so excited to see you doing this, because I'm just excited for all of the women who are just going to be able to benefit from this. And you're looking at what, 10,000 over the next, was it 5 years you mentioned?
Next 5 years.
Next five.
Part of me thinks that figure is going to end up being quite low. Because, every day I get an email or there's a Facebook message or something from somebody saying, that they want to be one of the 10,000, or they're struggling with something to start their own business, or there's an obstacle in their way. And so I'm doing two things. One of the things I'm doing is I'm making videos in responses to questions that
Yeah.
people are asking. And the other thing is I'm sharing the resources that I use as well, because it's got to be easy to use and accessible, and I'm trying to write it in a language that would have been easy to understand for the person that I was 5 years ago, not
Yeah.
having any idea of any of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And I told you the other day, I just, not, well, I think yesterday, yeah, I walked in the store and I was so excited about it. And I just started talking to somebody about it. And she said, I want to do it. Now, this particular woman, she's not, I mean, she's a stay at home mom. She is decently well off,
Mm,
and she doesn't need to work. She wants to work. And
mm,
she's a creative type just like you. And she has a million and one ideas. And even her children are like, Mom, when are you going to actually do one of these? And it's like, Mom, another one. And it's so funny because I pegged her because just listening to her, and she's like, I want to do it. And I said, you know what, you should do it. And so she's like, yeah, keep me posted. And it's just something, because she has all of these ideas in her head, she just wants to get them out and actually do something. And she was actually in a course at the university trying to take some courses on this stuff. And I was like, no, 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 no. This is going to be better for you.
Well, do you know the funny thing is that actually I got an email today from somebody who's a senior lecturer at a business school in London, and they've signed up for Millionaire Muslimah, and I was just like, wow, this is, this could go so many different places if people of that caliber are signing up.
I mean, really, I was so, so excited. And when I get excited about something, I get excited about it. And I don't know. I'm just really, really excited for this. And that's coming up in September. Are we
Yeah,
saying that? September,
yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah.
So where can listeners go to sign up for this?
So you can go to www.millionairemuslimah.com and you can get onto the VIP list. And what I'm doing for the VIP list is basically sharing resources and tools and ways for people to start off. There's also the Facebook page, which is facebook.com/the Millionaire Muslimah. And there is where I upload answers to questions that people are asking. And so if anyone
Okay.
listening has any questions about, how to start a business, any obstacles they're facing, they can just message me, and at some point over the course of the next few weeks I'll make a video and reply to that specific question, inshallah.
Inshallah. Inshallah. Awesome. We're going to update the site with all of these links too. So hopefully everyone gets in while the getting is good, because I'm pretty sure this one is going to fill up really fast. But
I hope so.
inshallah, it's amazing. And I'm just excited, really excited about it. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's good stuff.
I'm very excited, but I'm also really scared at the same time, because I think that it's just, there's so much that needs to get done in order for this to work. And what's awesome about what I'm trying to do, even if I say so myself, is yes, there's these 10,000 businesses that we want to create in the West, but also I want to match each new business that we create with a microfinance project somewhere in the developing or in the third world. So that
Wow.
for me, there's kind of like a balance there then, because we're also supporting, families who are in desperate need for some level of financial independence, as well as people in the West who are in a similar situation but in a different way. And I just think it would be absolutely awesome for us to be able to create 10,000, microfinance businesses as well.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for, to
Mm,
serve humanity. And this serves both purposes, you know,
absolutely.
and not only serving those who have access, but serving those who are even less fortunate than we are, because we do have a lot, and we have a lot to offer, which is exactly why this whole project is so important, because now you're going to be setting that legacy for others to step into whoever they are and do the same thing for other people, inshallah,
Yeah,
in their
inshallah.
own way.
Yeah,
So,
inshallah.
so
And that's
that's
what gives me, raises the hairs on the back of my neck and makes me really excited.
yes, and that's why we're doing this, because this is a purpose-driven project. It's something that people are, it's not about, it's not only about money. It's about serving a higher purpose, in
Absolutely.
addition to, they don't have to be independent of each other. You don't have to choose between that and the wealth model or having money. A lot of times we think, well, if we're going to serve, we have to, it doesn't really fit in with sometimes our psychological view of making money versus being of service.
I think the thing that really inspires me at the moment is Tony Robbins with his feeding 100 million people a year. And I just think, you know what, if I can even get slightly close to that, that would be pretty awesome, because look at the great work this guy is doing, and yet he still cares for people who are suffering,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it's inspirational.
Yeah, that's at the end of the day, it becomes, that's what it's about. That's what drives you. That's what money is okay. Yes, it's great, but that passion and knowing that you're contributing and you're doing something and you're helping someone and you're making a difference. You just can't buy that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, it's funny because when I was working in the government, I always had this thing about I would give a certain percentage of my salary away to as in charity. And then when I started to work for myself, I was getting frustrated that I couldn't do that anymore. And that started to become one of my big motivators. And
Wow.
because I shifted my mindset to like survival of family to giving in charity, I think there was some blessing that must have been put into my work because
Mm.
that moment when I could go back and I could give in the charity in the same level that I was giving before, it was just, honestly, I felt so much gratitude just for that moment.
Wow. Wow. And may
Mm,
you increase even in that, and
inshallah.
get all of the barakah and the blessings from all of the work that comes from your your work. I
Inshallah,
mean, I
inshallah.
mean. Well, I could sit here all day. I haven't even scraped the surface of all of what you have to offer, and we've already been here 48 minutes. So I'm going
Wow.
to, hopefully, we'll be talking to you and hearing more about Millionaire Muslimah um, a little bit later. Is it only for Muslim women?
I have to say, it's for women only, but it's for any women who want to come in and start a business. I mean, it is going to be a program that is geared towards Muslim women, but, I've had Catholic women in my program before, I've had Jewish women in my programs before. And what's always interesting for me is when they then send me emails and say that coming through my programs has helped them get closer to God. And I just think that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, because I know that would probably be one of the questions because at the end of the day, it really, I know you'll be taking, um, I'm pretty sure there will be some Islamic elements to it, but
there will definitely be an Islamic element to it. Yeah,
an Islamic element, but it wouldn't take away from being able to absorb the information and apply what's being taught. So,
absolutely.
so that's definitely awesome, and I'm so excited and can't wait
Yay!
and wait for it. So if you get a little bit scared, I'll be like there to just, boost you up and everything. Because it's
Yay!
whenever you're creating anything and you put it out there, there's always that you kind of feel like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this?
Yeah,
So, but it's really an awesome project, and now we can see where all of what you've done in the past have led up to this, and inshallah where it will continue to go. So
inshallah.
inshallah. So thank you so much for being on. I'm so excited for everyone to hear this. We're gonna put this up, and we're going to, if you want to listen to this, you just go to our site and do a search function, and it'll be Millionaire Muslimah, and it will pop right up. If you are listening to this episode and you want to find it quickly, if you miss whenever it airs directly on the site, you can just type in Millionaire Muslimah, and there will be a write up with all the resources and links and contact information. Any parting words you want to?
Believe in yourself. Get obstacles out of the way, and just go for whatever it is in your dreams. Inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. With that said, we'll sign off and we'll see you on the next call on the site. And the site is o2epodcast.com. That's O as in orange, 2, the number, E as in elephant, podcast.com, and Millionaire Muslimah in the search function. Okay? Be well. Thanks. Bye.